Hey everyone! I've been playing around with video game making for a while now, specifically using the Unity engine, and I've done a couple of small projects for PC games, both in 2D and 3D, but recently I've decided I want to try something new, and that thing is mobile games. The mobile market is the biggest out of all the platforms, and while they are not my favorite games to play at all, I think it would be very interesting to try to make a mobile game and just put it out there and see how it does. So I set out on this new goal. Of course, making a game is a very big endeavor, especially when learning something new at the same time. For these reasons, I need to make a solid plan on how to approach this new challenge I gave myself without burning out or becoming overwhelmed. The first step in the plan is a game idea. This seems basic, but thinking of a game idea is pretty hard to do as the mobile market is very saturated. Another limiting factor we have is that I don't want the project to be too big or complex because I want it to be achievable in a reasonable time frame. This first step also happens to be the subject of today's episode. We are going to be making a new game concept and getting a rough idea of the core mechanics and the gameplay loop. The second step of the plan is coding a prototype. It's a very important step as it allows us to see if the game is fun early on. This means not too much work is wasted if we find out the idea is garbage. This is also the stage where we can correct any major design flaws we made and just generally make the concept better. Once we're happy with our prototype and our design choices, it's time to add some polish, step 3. This is where we make pretty much the full game. We start coding functionalities, and we can start thinking and implementing some art and music. I want to talk really quick about these two things. Now, art is a very big thing for video games. I am personally not a very good artist, but I've been learning pixel art a little bit. Making all the art for a game by myself is probably overwhelming and way too big to undertake, so we're gonna need another solution. A few options come to mind to solve this. The Unity Asset Store offers great free assets for games. The advantage of the solution is that this would be completely free and very easy to add to our game. The problem with this approach is that we might not find the exact thing we need for our game. Another possible solution actually comes in play during the first steps. If we design a game that's based around an interface, such as idle games, we might be able to minimize the art needed, enabling me to make it myself. This is a good solution, however, it limits us in the kind of game we can make. The other solutions are all in the realm of paid content, either through paying assets in the Unity store or having someone make them for me. While these solutions guarantee the best results, I would like to try to keep the budget of making the game to zero. While we have a few options, the decision on the art matter will have to be taken after the design phase, as I don't want the art being a limiting factor in the types of game I can make. Music, on the other hand, isn't as much of a problem. There's a bunch of royalty-free music out there. However, I'm a musician and I love playing and making music, so I'll be making all the music myself for this project, not because it's a good or efficient solution, but simply because I enjoy it and I want to do it. Now, once all of that is done, we're pretty much left with a full-fledged game. However, no mobile game is truly complete without one key component: ads. I know nobody likes ads, but I want to try and explore the world of monetization for games. I'm going to be looking into ads and maybe microtransactions for the game and learn how to implement them. Of course, I don't do this and I don't expect to make a fortune out of it. The primary goal is to learn about all of these things. I'm also going to be looking into promoting the game on different platforms and investing a bit of money into targeted ads. In the end, we'll be able to see how much I spent in ads and how much the game has generated. I do respect myself a little bit, so I don't want to make the game like a full-on ad fest or just pay to win. So I'll try to keep the ads and microtransactions minimal, just to test the waters and not to ruin the player experience. And that's pretty much it for the big steps of the plan. It's a very exciting adventure and I hope you'll tag along with me. All the feedback, whether it's about the game, the design, or the video format, is greatly appreciated, and I cannot wait to see what you have to say about this. With that being said, let's go into step 1, having an idea. Now I had to think for a while before coming up with a game that's big enough to be fun, but small enough to make it a reasonable project to undertake alone. What I want to make is a traveling merchant game. The gist of it is that you travel from town to town, buying and selling merchandise for a profit. Let's now design this. First, we should identify some key components that the game will have. So, I started writing down some ideas. First of all, I should probably explain in a bit more detail the core gameplay loop. You start on a map with a few towns and very few gold. You go to a town, buy some products from the local market. Depending on the town, every product has a different price. For example, a town with green pastures will have cheap food. Meanwhile, a town in some frozen mountain may have some very cheap rocks, but the food will be very expensive. After you buy the goods, you go to another village, sell them, hopefully for a profit, and you keep repeating. With this in mind, here's some components required for this game. First of all, a sense of progression is something needed for every game to be fun. So we want the player to be able to afford upgrades. How about we allow the player to upgrade the carriage, increasing the number of goods that can be carried at once. This kind of upgrade is essential for a fun game because it makes the player want to progress further. On the same page, we can also make the cart wheels upgradable, making the player gain access to new cities depending on the new wheels they have. We can go back to our design. This could easily be achieved by adding a bit of variation to the map, such as a snowy area or a desert area, and requiring special wheels to access the market in those areas. Now, to make the gameplay more dynamic, we can also add random events, something like encountering bandits on the road or a specific city being stricken by the plague. Events can be positive or negative, and they can affect the prices of certain items in certain places. For example, a plague in a city makes every medicine item more expensive. Although all of these upgrades are fun, in the long run, the player needs a bigger purpose to stay interested in the game for a long period of time. I'm still unsure about this, so any feedback is welcome, but the current idea is to have some sort of a trading outpost with very expensive upgrades that take real lifetime to complete, but the post would generate money without the need for the player to intervene. This is the kind of idle mechanics that most mobile games have nowadays. So, with that great plan in mind, I'm ready to start coding. Is what I thought. I quickly realized that my plan wasn't that solid. I had pretty much all the surface level elements required for my game to function. However, I had no idea of how all of these elements would work precisely together. And how am I supposed to code something if I myself am not even aware of how it works? So I went back to the drawing board and added some details to my master plan. But first, you have to do this and do this. Please. Anyways, first concept on the list, the markets and their tradable items. I don't want to design all of the items right now as it's useless, but I need an idea of how they interact with the markets and how they work. So, I want every town to have its own specialty. Like mentioned earlier, some may be specialized in food, others in metal. Food, metal, and things as such will be categories. Each item will also have its own category, matching those of the markets. For example, let's say wheat is an item, its category will be food. Apple could be another completely different item, but its category would also be food. Villagers who specialize in food will then have their market prices for those items way lower than other markets. With this concept, however, the player can just go back and forth between two villages with different specialties and just infinitely trade between them without any consequences, and that's no fun. To prevent this, each market should have a stock. If you sell too much of an item, the market has an abundance of this and therefore the prices crash. Now, with all of that in mind, I can code the markets a lot easier because I know the interactions. The other big aspect is the travel. Should the travel between two villages be free? Should it be instantaneous? Honestly, it probably shouldn't be, but I don't want it to take real life time either, as this would make the game super tedious and frankly just boring. The best solution I found is to have in-game time, where it takes, for example, 3 days to travel from one place to another. While this is instantaneous for the player, time in-game still goes forward. This would also make the previously mentioned stocks in the villages have a bit of time to change. This is important to think about early on because time might affect a lot of other gameplay elements, like the random events. Maybe some are only available at night or after a certain amount of time has passed. Adding some sort of cost to traveling would also make the game probably a bit more fun, encouraging the player to find better trades to make sure the trips are worth it. This could either be a cart durability system where you have to pay to repair it after a while, or supplies you have to buy for the road. Adding time to the game also brings multiple new upgrade possibilities. New horses for the carriage could make it go faster, buying lights or other security upgrades to make it so you are less likely to be attacked at night. Now, that's a plan that's a bit more solid, and I think I'm finally ready to start working on the project. That, however, will be for the next video. I'm very excited to start this journey, and as I said previously, any feedback is welcomed, and I cannot wait to show you more of this. Subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and remember to hydrate properly. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.